It's dawn on Good Friday, April 23rd, 1014, and the coast near Dublin is about to become a graveyard. An Irish warrior named Domhnall stands in the shield wall, gripping his spear so tight his knuckles have gone white. Around him, thousands of warriors from Munster wait in the cold morning mist. The ground beneath their feet is soft, marshy, close to the sea. Behind them, the tide is coming in. Across the field, barely visible through the fog, stands the enemy, the Leinster-Norse coalition. Thousands of warriors, Irish from Leinster, Norse from Dublin, Viking mercenaries from Orkney and the Isle of Man. Their shields form a wall just as solid as the one Domhnall stands in. Their axes gleam in the pale light. This isn't a fight between Irish and Vikings. That's the story people will tell later, but it's not the truth. Both sides have Irish warriors. Both sides have Norse warriors. This is a civil war for control of Ireland, dressed up in the language of high kings and ancient grudges. But that doesn't make it any less deadly. Behind Domhnall's line, sitting in a tent away from the fighting, is Brian Boru, the High King of Ireland. 70 years old, too old to fight, but still the reason they're all here. Brian has spent a decade forcing Ireland's kingdoms to accept his rule. Most submitted. But Leinster refused. And when Leinster allied with the Norse of Dublin and brought in Viking mercenaries from across the sea, Brian had no choice but to fight. A commander rides past the line, Murchad, Brian's son, the man who will actually lead this battle. His voice cuts through the morning air.
Hold the line! Wait for my signal!
Domhnall adjusts his grip on his spear. He's fought before, but never in a battle this size. Medieval sources will later claim there were tens of thousands here, 7,000 on Brian's side, 14,000 in the coalition. Across the field, a war horn blows. The coalition begins to move forward, shield wall against shield wall, and the killing begins. The rebellion began in earnest. Mael Mordor, King of Leinster, had submitted to Brian Boru years ago, but he never truly accepted it. Leinster was proud, independent, unwilling to bow to a Munster king. So Mael Mordor made a plan. He travelled to Dublin, to the court of Sigtrig Silkbeard, the Norse Gaelic king who ruled the city. Dublin was a hybrid place, Norse in origin, but Irish in culture by now. The people spoke both languages, they traded with both worlds, and they had their own interests. In Sigtrig's hall, Mael Mordor made his pitch.
Brian Boru's power grows too strong. If we don't stop him now, Leinster and Dublin will be provinces, not kingdoms. Join me. Rebel. We'll bring in allies from across the Norse world.
Sigtrig was cautious. Brian's army was formidable. But Mael Mordor offered something irresistible: legitimacy. If they won, Sigtrig would rule Dublin as an independent king, free from Brian's authority.
What allies can you bring?
Sigtrig asked.
Sigurd of Orkney, Brodir of Man, warriors from the Isles who have no love for Irish high kings.
Sigtrig considered, then nodded.
Send word. We rebel.
The coalition was formed, Irish and Norse together, fighting against another coalition of Irish and Norse. This was medieval Ireland. Alliances shifted like the tide, and ethnicity mattered far less than power. Brian Boru learned of the rebellion and marched on Dublin in late 1013. He burned Leinster villages, he blockaded the city. But winter came, supplies ran low, and he was forced to withdraw. The rebellion survived. By spring 1014, both sides knew a final battle was coming. Brian returned with his army, stronger and more determined. The coalition gathered every warrior they could: Leinster troops, Dublin's Norse garrison, Viking mercenaries from Orkney led by Earl Sigurd, and possibly warriors from the Isle of Man. The two armies met at Clontarf, on low-lying ground near the coast, just north of Dublin. It was Good Friday, a holy day, which made the timing either symbolic or simply convenient, depending on who you asked. And on the morning of April 23rd, the shield walls formed. The shield walls crash together. The sound is like thunder, wood on wood, iron on iron, men screaming. Domhnall thrusts his spear forward. It hits a shield, glances off. A Norse warrior swings an axe at his head. Domhnall ducks. The man beside him drives a sword into the axeman's side. Blood sprays. The axeman falls. This is shield wall combat. Brutal, close. There's no room to maneuver, no space to retreat. You stand shoulder to shoulder with the men around you, pushing forward or being pushed back. If you fall, you're trampled. If the line breaks, you die. The battle fragments almost immediately. Shield walls don't stay neat. They buckle, they bend, they splinter into smaller fights. Groups of warriors break off and clash in isolated pockets of violence. The battlefield becomes chaos. Domhnall's section of the line pushes forward. The coalition warriors opposite them give ground, step by step. But 20 yards to his left, the opposite is happening. Brian's warriors are being driven back. The battle is seesawing, neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. Hours pass. The sun climbs higher. Men are exhausted. Shields are splintered. Bodies pile up in the mud. In the coalition's lines, Sigurd of Orkney fights with his men, rallying them when they falter. He's a famous warrior, respected, feared. But the battle is going badly. Brian's forces are better organized, better led. Murchad, Brian's son, is a brilliant battlefield commander. He moves reserves where they're needed, reinforces weak points, keeps his warriors disciplined. Sigurd realizes they're losing. He tries to pull his men back, to regroup. But there's nowhere to go. Behind them is the coast. The tide is coming in. The ground is turning into marsh. A group of Irish warriors breaks through the coalition's line. They surround Sigurd. He fights desperately, axe swinging, cutting down 2 men. But there are too many. A spear takes him in the chest. He falls. The Earl of Orkney is dead. Word spreads through the coalition ranks.
Sigurd is down! Sigurd is dead! Sigurd is down!
Morale collapses. Warriors who'd been fighting for hours, exhausted and bleeding, begin to break. First in small groups, then in larger numbers. The shield wall disintegrates, and then the slaughter truly begins.
Keep moving! They're right behind us!
The coalition warriors run, some toward Dublin, some toward the coast, trying to reach their ships. But the ground is treacherous. Streams cut across the battlefield. The tide has risen, turning low-lying areas into bogs. Men slip, fall, drown in shallow water, weighed down by armor and exhaustion. Brian's warriors pursue. This is when most of the killing happens, not in the shield wall, but in the rout. Running men are easy targets. They're stabbed in the back, cut down as they stumble, drowned as they try to wade through water. Domhnall chases a fleeing warrior into a stream. The man falls, tries to crawl away. Domhnall hesitates. The man is unarmed, helpless. But this is war. Domhnall drives his spear down. The man stops moving. Near the coast, Mael Morda, King of Leinster, makes his last stand. He's surrounded, his bodyguard dead around him. He refuses to surrender. A warrior named Wulf the Quarrelsome, one of Brian's captains, cuts him down with an axe. The rebellion's leaders are dying. Sigurd dead, Mael Morda dead. The coalition is shattered. But Brian's victory comes at a terrible cost. Murchad, Brian's son, the brilliant commander who won the battle, pushes too far forward in the pursuit. He's cut off by a group of desperate coalition warriors. They drag him from his horse. He fights like a lion, killing several before a blade finds his neck. Murchad dies in the mud, surrounded by enemies. And then, in the worst twist of fate, Brian Boru himself is killed. The High King had stayed in his tent throughout the battle, as planned. He was too old to fight. But as the pursuit spreads across the battlefield, a group of fleeing coalition warriors stumbles near his position. They see the tent. They see the guards. They realize who's inside. Later saga accounts will say Brodir of Man killed Brian. But historians can't confirm Brodir was even there. What we know is that Brian Boru, the man who unified Ireland, who forced kings to kneel, who won the greatest battle of his life, was killed by fleeing enemies in the chaos after his own victory. An old man, unarmed, struck down while his army celebrated. The battlefield is silent, except for the groans of the wounded and the cries of crows. Bodies lie everywhere, Irish, Norse, warrior and peasant, victor and vanquished. The tide has risen fully now, lapping at the corpses near the shore. Donnell sits exhausted on the muddy ground, his spear beside him, blood on his hands. They won. The coalition is destroyed. Leinster will submit. Dublin will negotiate. Ireland is unified under Brian Boru's vision. Except Brian Boru is dead. And his son, the commander who won the battle, is dead too. A messenger runs through the camp, spreading the news. Men who'd been celebrating moments before fall silent. Some weep. Others just stare in shock. Brian's coalition achieved total military victory, but they paid for it with their king. And without Brian, the whole structure he built, the alliances, the submissions, the fragile unity, begins to crack immediately. Within months, Miles Shecknell, the former High King who'd submitted to Brian years ago, reclaims the title. The regional kings go back to fighting each other. Ireland splinters again into rival kingdoms. Brian's dream of a unified Ireland dies with him on the coast at Clontarf. The battle didn't end Viking presence in Ireland. Dublin remained a Norse Gaelic city for generations. It didn't permanently unify the Irish kingdoms. It didn't create a nation. But it was one of the largest, bloodiest, most decisive battles ever fought on Irish soil. And it showed the reality of medieval Ireland, complex, multicultural, violent, where Norse and Irish fought alongside and against each other based on politics, not ethnicity. The Battle of Clontarf became a legend. Later generations would tell it as a story of Irish heroes defeating Viking invaders. But the men who fought there knew the truth. It was a civil war for power, and everyone lost. If this story of brutal civil war and shattered dreams amazed you, wait until you hear about another desperate fight for survival. When English archers almost ran out of arrows in the middle of battle, and everything depended on teenagers running supplies under enemy fire. Click on it, and we'll see you soon with another forgotten medieval story.